Yo, what's good, guys? Another video here. Today we got the top 10 reasons not to live in the United States of America, aka my home, my country, where I live. So, will I be offended? Will I be pissed? Will I want to punch through this screen? Let's find out.
Do you live in the US of A?
USA.
Well, according to my YouTube analytics, there's a 72.5% chance you'd answer yes. But if your answer's no, and you've ever pondered whether fireworks, hot dogs, and getting a bald eagle tattoo sound like a good time, call me a demolition
That is a good ass tattoo.
crew, because I'm about to break it down for you. I came in like a wrecking ball. Ouch! Wait, seriously? That's what we're left with? An American flag, Tiger King, and are those huge toilet stall gaps? Remind me why we're like the only country that has those again. Well, it's because we've also
Bro, the toilet gaps are that's such a weird difference. Like, I forgot about that. Why? What do y'all mean? Like, who's looking under the toilets in the first place? Like, I don't see why it matters. Like, if anyone's trying to look under the gaps, just stomp those motherfuckers, because they deserve it.
got this thing called American innovation. It's no wonder we have by far the best economy in the world, and so many incredible things were invented here. The American dream has stood as a beacon of hope for people far and wide, with over 200 different nationalities calling the US home. But while that diversity and innovation, combined with gorgeous landscapes, make the United States a great place to live, that doesn't mean it's perfect. Find out why in my top 10 reasons not to move to the USA. And let's hit 5,000 likes if you want to see a video on the 10 best countries for 2022. Number 10, the car-dependent culture. Unless you live in New York, San Francisco, or the handful of other walkable cities with good public transit, you're gonna need a car to live in the USA. Especially the further west you go, as most of the country lacks any real urban planning, and cities and towns are much more spread out. Now, if you've lived your entire life in the US, you might think this is normal, and it could even be a huge pro for you if you're someone who loves long drives on the open road. But
Like me, for example. Like, I want to address something. You don't need a car to live here, right? Like, there are people who can live without a car, but like, it's definitely more convenient to have a car. But like, you can definitely go places and do things without a car. It's just like other countries, from what I've seen online, because I've never left the US, they seem to have it planned for that, whereas the US, it's doable, but it's not as convenient.
it'll be a big culture shock if you're coming from a place in Europe or Asia where cities are very walkable and public transportation is phenomenal. And it is creating a problem here, considering the average American only takes around 5,000 steps a day, which is just half of what's recommended for a healthy lifestyle. In fact, many people in sprawling cities like LA, Phoenix, or Houston, as well as most rural parts of the country, don't even walk at all. And it's not like they really need to, with drive-thrus for everything from food.
I mean, all right, now he's talking about rural parts, though. That's, if you really in a rural place, you doing a lot more than if you in a real rural, like he said, rural, like real country, then nah, you doing. I don't think I walked anywhere near as much living in a city as I did in the country. Like, no.
Food to banks to pharmacies. Number 9, if you value your health. Considering that many Americans don't even walk, much less actively exercise, it should come as no surprise that 42.4% of US adults are obese, making it the 11th most obese nation in the world. And the severe lack of healthy food options in most parts of the country certainly doesn't help. In fact, there's tons of foods Americans eat regularly that are actually illegal in many other countries due to all the chemical additives. But that
I stopped that at the perfect time. What the fuck's up with that horse? Wow, but like, as I was trying to say, it's
not all. Even if you're not.
There we go. That is the crazy thing to me, is the fact that we on the regular eat shit that is criminal in other countries. Like, that is crazy to me. Like, damn.
Not stuck living in a food desert where all you have to eat is corn puffs and Cousin Willie's buttery explosion popcorn. You still aren't out of the proverbial woods because mental health is also a huge issue here. 18.1% of US adults suffer from severe anxiety and 6.7% suffer from severe depression in a given year, making our depression rate the second highest of any country.
What's the first? I don't know what the first is. And again, that comes down to shitty healthcare system where like people don't, and also like I feel like say, now I've never really experienced, like I've experienced sadness, right? But like I'm not a depressed person. Like I don't get depressed. It's not a thing for me. Like it's just not. Like what am I trying to say? Like it's definitely looked down upon in a lot of places to like be depressed, if that's the right word for it, or like it's looked down upon, especially with men, right? Like men aren't allowed to be depressed, if that makes sense.
Number 8. Healthcare. Poor health might be rampant in the US, but hey, at least there's quality healthcare to treat all the problems. Well, if you can afford it, because the US is the only industrialized nation to not offer universal healthcare for all of its residents. So every year, 20 to 45,000 people actually die just because they don't have health insurance.
That's
not
crazy.
to mention how many Americans go broke from an unforeseen illness or injury. And you can't...
That is, for real, that is horrible how much that happens. Like, because that happens a lot more than I think even people in the US realize. Like, I've seen that happen plenty of times to people, and it's not fun.
Can't blame them. The average annual health insurance cost is nearly $7,500 for an individual and over $21,000 for a family. And even then, you still might have to pay out of pocket if the doctor or hospital that you go to is considered out of network. Pharmaceutical drugs and medicines also cost way more here than in other countries, so it's no wonder most Americans don't see a doctor until they absolutely have to, which often results in many minor issues that could have easily been prevented, turning into major issues that need extensive care. Number 7, it's expensive. Healthcare costs are just one of the many things that make the US the 11th most expensive country in the world. Although, to be fair, at least it also does have the 3rd highest purchasing power index, since wages are pretty high too. And they better be, because median rent costs in the US are the 7th most expensive globally, with the median renter spending 31.1% of their income on rent. And poor renters...
I thought this man was about to say 3,100 is the average rent. I was about to be like, hold up, what? Okay. We're good. I about freaked out though, but...
Or those in the bottom 20% of incomes spend nearly 75% of their income on rent. Now, if you're coming from Europe or Canada, you might find the cost of living as a whole to be about on par or even slightly lower. But compared to most of the world, the US's cost of living is through the roof, especially when you realize sales taxes aren't included on the price tag of products and you have to tip an extra 15 to 25% at restaurants. Number 6, low wages and high poverty. What do you mean low wages? You just said America has high wages and a great economy. And yeah, it does, with the 9th highest nominal GDP per capita at $68,300. But that doesn't mean many people aren't struggling, as there's also a huge division of wealth. If you can't manage to snag an actual good-paying job, you're unlikely to make ends meet. Because with a federal minimum wage of just $7.25 an hour, or around $15,000 a year, the U.S.
I think that has gone up. Don't quote me on this, but I think that has gone up by quite a bit since this... When was this video made? A year ago? That don't sound right to me. I think that's gone up. At least to my knowledge, that's gone up.
Good-paying job, you're unlikely to make ends meet. Because with a federal minimum wage of just $7.25 an hour, or around $15,000 a year, the U.S. only has the 17th highest minimum income among industrialized nations, despite having by far the best economy in the world. And sure, most workers here do make more than minimum wage, but 48 million of them still make less than $15 an hour, which in a lot of states still isn't enough to get by. Not to
That is
mention,
true.
many Americans are also intentionally underemployed, so employers don't have to pay them benefits. I mean, the US being the only country other than Papua New Guinea and 5 small Pacific Island nations to not require paid family leave should show you how little this country cares about its workers. As a result, our international poverty rate is 17.8%, with an even higher rate of childhood poverty at 20.
I'm not gonna lie, that is lower than I thought it was gonna be. I genuinely thought he was about to say it's like 30%. I'm honestly like, I didn't think I was gonna watch this video and like be relieved. Okay, damn. The homeless kids. I've never actually seen a homeless kid, but like that's crazy.
9%. Number 5, it's dangerous. Do you know what high poverty usually leads to? Crime. So it shouldn't be a surprise that the US is more dangerous than any other industrialized nation and the 36th most dangerous country overall. The crime rate is nearly triple that of most of Europe, and the homicide rate is over 10 times that of Europe. Now sure, it's not like you need to worry about being shot in broad daylight in most parts of the country, as the US isn't nearly as dangerous as a place like El Salvador, but there are many US cities that are among the most dangerous in the world, such as St. Louis, whose murder rate of 88 people per 100,000 is nearly double El Salvador's rate, and El Salvador is by far the most dangerous country. Number 4.
This is a little local knowledge because I'm from Illinois. There's a place in Illinois called East St. Louis that you guys should look it up if you really want to see some crazy shit, because it is by number even more crazy. It's like right outside St. Louis, and that's basically where like all the like criminals in St. Louis live. Like it's, yeah, look it up.
4. Education. Education in the US isn't like in most European countries where the quality of schooling is great regardless of where you live. It's a lot more like your 3 times divorced, pansexual, non-monogamous Aunt Tilda's relationship. Complicated. Many Americans actually choose where they're gonna live based solely on school districts. Because one town might have amazing schools, while the next city over has terrible funding and a student-to-teacher ratio of 40 to 1. Heck, there have even been cases of students graduating high school without knowing how to read. Needless to say, the American education system is a dilemma. But at least there are other options, such as homeschool.
That is crazy. I didn't ever know anyone who graduated high school and can't read. That's crazy.
Charter school, private school, Montessori school, or old school. But no matter what school you choose, your kids will likely feel like they have to go to college even if the job they want doesn't require it. Higher education is heavily ingrained in the American culture, with many parents thinking their children will end up failures if they don't go to university. So unlike many other countries that put just as much of an emphasis on trade school apprenticeships or working, a college degree seems to be the only thing that matters to many Americans. And
no, that's not true so much anymore. Like, especially with my generation, right? Like, there are a lot of people who in my generation are just like, there's no point to go to college because you can make plenty of money without college and not starting your life in debt. Like myself. Like, college is great if you want to do something that requires college. Like, you want to be a doctor or you have a passion for something that needs college, go to college. But, like, just to make money, I don't know. I don't think college is worth it. But what do I know? I'm just a 20-year-old idiot on YouTube watching videos.
No, it's not free, and no, it does not guarantee you'll get a good job. All it does guarantee is that you'll probably be in debt until you're at least 50, because the total U.S. student loan debt of $1.75 trillion is growing 6 times faster than the nation's economy, with no signs of slowing down.
That is true.
Number 3, geographic and ideational isolation. Many Americans think the US is the best country, while objectively, it just isn't. And many of those same people have never visited another country before. Heck, even
I used to be that. Like, I've still never visited another country, but like I 100% had like that preconceived notion of, yeah, US is the best, everywhere else sucks, I'd hate to live anywhere else, where it's like now I can see the flaws and how other places have aspects that may be better. And it's like, now my new opinion is I don't think the best country in the world to live in really exists, because it depends on you, right? Like, the best place for you to live is not the best place for me to live, I guarantee you. Like, it depends on you as a person.
When Americans do travel, many don't care to learn about new cultures or broaden their horizons, and instead opt to stay in resorts or English-speaking areas where the culture is similar to what they're familiar with. In a sense, Americans are some of the most closed-minded people, and they don't even know it. And if you're an American watching this and want to rage at that comment, you're kind of proving my point. Maybe it's because of its geographic isolation and how difficult and expensive it is to travel to countries other than Canada or Mexico, or perhaps the superiority complex that the US presents to the rest of the world. But nearly 30% of Americans have never left the country, and even more tend to have a very individualistic and closed mindset. As a result, many US residents feel alone and don't have a sense of community, which is another reason for our high depression rates and can be a huge culture shock if you're coming from a country where an emphasis is put on family and caring about the collective. Number 2, the country is very divided.
Facts.
Speaking of closed-mindedness,
Facts. And, like, that's not even by accident. Like, the news... I just reacted to a video. It was out yesterday, if I remembered to put these videos out in the order I want to. If not, then, hint towards tomorrow. But, like, these videos... like, you literally... I was able to break it down in time how biased the news is. And, like, the news will literally, like, purposely... trigger you to argue with the other side so that nobody can come to a conclusion. It's crazy. So, like, it's not even an accident, but he is so right with this.
Party political system has really done us dirty. I mean, there's a reason few industrialized nations have it, because you can hardly get anything done. And our politicians and the reactionary media just seem to want to distract and divide us, separating the public into either Team Red or Team Blue. When in actuality, there's nuance to everything, and most...
Preach. Thank you. Thank you.
Americans would probably agree on many of the same goals if labels weren't attached and people could just have open and honest conversations without attacking each other. But that probably isn't going to be happening anytime soon, as more and more people just stay in their echo chambers and refuse to even listen to what someone with a different viewpoint has to say. Between the ever-increasing classism and continuously polarizing government agendas, the divisiveness of the social and political atmosphere in our nation is the worst it's been since the Civil War. When states were so divided, they literally left the country.
And it's like, the crazy thing is, like, I just reacted to a video about that, where it's like, I would be surprised if it happened, but I wouldn't, right? Like, a whole, like, civil war happening again. Like, that's what all this seems to be stirring towards. Like, if they keep purposely dividing people and having people argue amongst each other, like, that's what's gonna happen at some point.
Speaking of which, Canada is actually preparing for us to have another civil war. Now, before we get to...
Hey, that's probably smart on their part, man. Like, shit.
Number 1, make sure you leave a like and subscribe, and comment which country you want me to cover next. Also, check out my videos on the 10 reasons why you shouldn't move to Canada or Australia. But without further ado, number 1. It's very difficult to immigrate here. If everything on this list so far doesn't in the slightest way concern you, and you're like, sign me up, yeah, the US still sounds awesome. Well, I hate to break it to you, but you probably won't be able to move here. Because while the US does have the most foreign-born residents by far, accounting for nearly 20% of all immigrants in the world, they're also just a select few of the hundreds of millions of applicants. To even have a shot at meeting the immigration requirements, you'll need to either marry an American citizen, be an award-winning writer, scientist, or tech mogul, be a skilled worker not born in India or China, and if you are born in India, China, the Philippines, or Mexico, be prepared to wait in line for at least a few decades. Or you could be a refugee, although 75% of asylum seekers are still denied. This is honestly the biggest reason why people who want to move here don't. It's a ton of work, requires a lot of time and money, and there's no guarantee you'll even be allowed in.
I mean, I don't know anything about that whole aspect. I was born here, raised here, parents were born here, raised here, grandparents, great-grandparents, I think. Like, I think, like, my great-great-great-grandfather came from Germany or something. But like, yeah, I don't I don't know nothing about all that one. But hey, man, I respect this dude just based off him pointing out what I was trying to tell y'all about like how horrible the news is. So just based off that alone, like the video, like my video, like his video, subscribe to me, subscribe to him, link in the description. I always put the link in the description, but you know, I feel like it's worth to say. And I'm out. Bye.